We now come to questions to the Secretary of State for Education, Rishi Sunak.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge events in the Middle East over the weekend following recent developments involving Iran. The safety of British nationals and our armed forces personnel right across the region is our priority, and we pay tribute to our brave servicemen and women. Service families make extraordinary sacrifices for our country, as the Right Honourable Gentleman knows well. The Department for Education proudly supports service children, including those in his constituency around Catterick and elsewhere, through targeted funding and clear guidance to schools. Service Pupil Premium provided £26 million this financial year, and these measures address challenges arising from service life so that all service children can achieve and thrive in education.
Well, can I associate myself with the Secretary of State's remarks and thank her for a thoughtful answer? I know we both share a desire to honour the service of those in our armed forces by recognising and addressing the impact on their families. And as she said, as the MP for Catterick Garrison and nearby RAF Leeming, I see in particular the impact on those service pupils with SEND, which I know is something that she cares about. My local school leaders have recently implemented the Garrison Assist project, which seeks to address some of those challenges. And in light of the recent white paper, I met with them, and if I could ask her to arrange a meeting for them with officials so they might share their learnings and that service pupils across our country can get the support that they need and deserve.
Secretary of State.
Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker. I'd be more than happy to make sure that meeting takes place, and I commend the Garrison Assist project for its excellent work. We've looked at the work they've done, and that has really given us a strong foundation for many of the changes that we're bringing forward to the SEND system. For example, education, health and care plans and individual support plans will be digital, and that will ensure smoother transitions when children move between local authority areas, and that will make a big difference to many children, but particularly children from service families.
Strathern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really proud to represent so many service families, but many of them we've been working with are really at the sharp end of failures in the SEND system. Regular moves between postings can exacerbate long waits for assessments. It can leave them particularly exposed to the postcode lottery we're currently seeing in provision. So as we drive forward long overdue reforms in this place, how can we make sure we're centring the experiences of service families so we can finally do right by those who do so much for all of us?
My humble friend is absolutely right, and that's why, as I set out, we are making changes to ensure that there are smoother transitions for service children, making both education, health and care plans and individual support plans digital to really smooth that transition. But of course there is still more that we need to do, and all of us across this House have a responsibility to ensure that those who serve our country receive the best possible education and care for their children. I'd be very happy to discuss it further with him or any members, Mr. Speaker, who have a local constituency concern in this area.
Yuan.
Question number 2, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday, my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Education, set out ambitious SEND reform to work better for families and for children across England. It's clear that families and the teachers and the wider staff trying to support them have been failed by the system and the profound impact that has had on children and young people's education and well-being. We're determined to work with families and professionals around the country to build a system where children's needs are met quickly, where families don't have to battle because the right inclusive mainstream and specialist support is available in their community. We want to hear from young people, parents, teachers and all those supporting them. So I'd ask everyone in this chamber to help us bring the voices of their constituents to our consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Secondary school students with special educational needs have told me of their struggles with academy trusts previously in South Reading and Shinfield, which failed to properly prioritise inclusion. Can the Minister set out how the school's white paper will address this on the part of multi-academy trusts? And will she consider visiting Hartland High and Oakbank School in my constituency to see the progress they have made on this front?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for that question. Accountability is a key part of our reforms, and it's why Ofsted is now really focused on inclusion, as well as bringing in Ofsted inspections for multi-academy trusts. I very much enjoyed meeting with my honourable friend, one of her local academies, which was doing brilliant work, but absolutely recognise that we need to put the right resource and the right accountability to ensure that's happening everywhere, and always delighted to see best practice.
In Roome.
Mr. Speaker, please can I thank the Minister for the Government's decision to effectively write off around 90% of Devon County Council's SEND debts. I know that will reassure many parents in my constituency of North Devon. Can the Minister tell us how the new school curriculum will give schools the flexibility they need to support children with special educational needs across very different parts of the country, such as rural areas like North Devon?
Minister. Mr Speaker, the honourable member is absolutely right that we need to ensure that children with SEND have the right support everywhere in the country, and that means the right experts being wrapped around schools and ensuring that the curriculum meets the needs of children. We already set out the government's curriculum and assessment review that sets out our modern curriculum, including a whole breadth of learning for young people and enrichment. But we also know it's important to have the right adaptations and flexibility, and we will be moving forward with that as part of our SEND reforms.
Whereas, Mr Speaker, there's much concern in my Camborne, Redruth and Hale constituency about the off-rolling of children with SEND, as the Secretary of State knows. But can the Minister elaborate on reforms within the Schools White Paper to ensure mainstream secondary multi-academy trust exclusions will be measured and that schools will be incentivised to provide effective SEND provision that all of our children deserve?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we are absolutely clear that every school has to support children with special educational needs and disabilities. Every teacher has to be trained to be a SEND teacher. Every secondary school will be expected to have an inclusion base. And we need to ensure that we have eyes on children and no children are falling through the cracks. And that's why in the Department for Education, we are going to be more closely monitoring pupil flow, including off-rolling, and making sure that we are working with trusts or schools or local authority schools when we see large numbers of children who are off-rolling or in other ways out of education.
Gagan Mohindra.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I spend a lot of time visiting schools in my constituency and speaking to the hard-working head teachers about the pressures they are under due to spiralling costs and teacher shortages. With the government's proposed reforms placing additional responsibility on schools to create individual support plans, alongside an ambition for more children's needs to be met within mainstream schools, how will the Minister ensure that schools do not have to make sacrifices that harm the education of every child?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, when developing this policy, we learnt from the best schools in the country. I visited schools where they have individual support plans for every student, where they have the wraparound support, and children are absolutely thriving. And we want to make sure that that is happening in every school. We are investing in creating a new national digital individual support plan, and we're putting £4 billion into schools and the services that support them to make this a reality.
Secretary of State Laws.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last week, I asked the Secretary of State a very specific question about SEND funding in her statement, which she failed to answer. So I'm going to try again with the Minister today. The £4 billion announced last week to be paid over 3 years for SEND, which the Secretary of State described as new money, is actually from within the Department's existing spending review settlement, isn't it?
Minister.
Yes, we just had to say
Absolutely, yes. It is money that we have, one, to put into supporting children with special educational needs and disabilities. It's a priority that we take very seriously. I have seen the failure around the country, and for too long, these families have not been listened to. Too many children are out of education, and we need to change that. So we, as part of that spending review, requested and managed to get new investment that we are putting into schools, to experts at hand services, to wrap around schools, on top of the £3.7 billion we're putting into new specialist places. This is generational reform that will make a huge difference. And we want to work in partnership with colleagues across the House, but we still haven't heard from the party opposite. What are your ideas, or what are their ideas, and what do they...
You're in government, so you don't need to work. Order! Order! Please, I'm trying to be helpful. All these members are trying to get in. It's a big day. There's a big statement coming. Please, when I stand, please. OK. Munira Wilson, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you very much. Mr Speaker, trust among families with special educational needs is rock bottom. Often their voices have been ignored, sometimes with tragic consequences. So whilst many are open to reform, there is real concern that under the government's proposals, tribunals will lose the ability to direct specific provision in a child's best interest, with the risk of trapping families in an endless doom loop of dispute with local authorities. If ministers are serious about tackling that adversarial nature, will the minister now confirm how she will prevent this and protect children's and parents' rights?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we are committed to the tribunal being a backstop for families. We want a much more collaborative system, but we have heard from families how important that backstop of legal rights is. So the tribunal will be there as a backstop if parents are unhappy with the assessment process, if they're unhappy with the specialist provision package that they've had. And when it comes to the placement of schools, members across this House will know that in many cases, places are being named where special schools are already full and it's just not safe to take those children. So parents will still be able to go to the tribunal. The tribunal will squash the decision if they're unhappy, and the local authority will need to look again.
But the rest objective.
Question number 3, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Department is providing targeted help for Cambridgeshire, including a specialist SEND advisor and sector-led improvement support from Islington Council. We're actively monitoring Cambridgeshire's recovery plan to reduce EHCP backlogs and secure better outcomes for children and families. On Monday, the Secretary of State set out wider ambition for a SEND system that works better for children and families across England. I'd like to encourage parents nationwide to look at our consultation on how we bring change our children need.
The best objective.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We have a significant challenge with regards to EHCP backlog in Cambridgeshire, and I appreciate what the Minister was saying about the help that's in place currently. Having read the SEND white paper as well, though, I'm struggling to see where that immediate impact will come. I had a letter from a constituent at the weekend who thanked me for helping her child get an EHCP after 74 weeks, and I can give you examples that stretch up to nearly 2 years from an EHCNA being signed off. I'm due to meet Cambridgeshire County Council on Friday to discuss this in more detail. What advice could the Minister give to them in terms of how the SEND white paper will help them to get on top of that EHCP backlog?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, the honourable member is absolutely right. The timeliness of the HCPs has been unacceptable, and it's something we're taking very seriously. It's why we put that extra resource in as part of the school's white paper. We're putting £200 million directly into councils to support their capacity. But this is something we'll be monitoring very closely. I'm very happy to talk to the honourable member in more detail about his concerns.
John Whitney.
Question 4, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mobile phones have no place in our schools. We have published strengthened guidance that is clear that all schools should be mobile phone free environments by default for the entire school day, and Ofsted will be checking this at every inspection.
John Whitney.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I ask the Minister what assessment has been made of the magnetic lockable pouches being used in some schools as a way of preventing any smartphone access during the entire school day, including lunches and breaks, and could that be considered for a national rollout?
Minister.
Thank you. I thank my honourable friend for his excellent support for schools in his constituency. And lockable pouches, Mr Speaker, are successfully used by many schools and are listed in the department's examples of best practice approaches. Heads can rightly choose how they implement the mobile phone ban in their schools, reflecting what works best in their context.
Just Brown Fuller.
Mr Speaker, last week I spent time with teachers and students from Chichester High School who have implemented the lockable magnetic pouches, and students told me they've improved their focus in lessons. Interestingly, bathroom breaks have halved. They've reduced the pull of the addictive features on phones, and teachers report that children are just being children at break times rather than being glued to their phones. So I'm glad that the Minister shares my ambition to see every school to become phone free, but what support are they going to provide each school that have really tight budget restrictions to be able to achieve this?
I thank her for that question and congratulate their pupils and staff at Chichester Academy for their great work in this space. It's fantastic to hear the policy that they're implementing and the difference that it's making for children. Phones should not be in schools, and we are going to be working with schools through our attendance and behaviour hubs, along with our toughened guidance, to make sure we support schools to implement this policy properly.
Marcia de Cordova.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm pleased that the Government are looking at ways to protect our children and young people when it comes to the use of screens, as it's vital that teachers, parents and young people have strong guidance in place, as we know that excessive screen time use can have an impact on eye health care. So can the Minister commit to ensuring that any forthcoming guidance will address eye health and eye conditions such as dry eye disease and myopia?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend. I thank her for her important campaigning work in this area and for her really important question. I'm happy to give her that assurance, and I'd be delighted to meet with her to discuss in more detail.
Thank
you, Mr Speaker. I was a secondary school teacher before I came into this place, and even 10 years ago, enforcing that mobile phones, although the school guidance was that they shouldn't be in the classroom, enforcing that was a daily struggle. The presence of mobile phones undermines any of what schools are trying to do. It causes distraction, potentially enabling cyberbullying, exposing students to potentially harmful online contents. We have been through all of those. Will the government, sometimes it is important that guidance is supported by law, will the government turn existing guidance into law and ban phones in schools?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We are consulting in the consultation we've announced today on whether a statutory ban is needed. But the action that we have taken addresses the root cause of the problem, the clarity of mobile phone policies and how well they are enforced. And the vast majority of schools do have a ban in place. They just aren't sufficiently effective, and that's what we're working to address.
Senator Minister Jack Rankin.
Sir, the Secretary of State has bent over backwards to avoid backing a ban on mobile phones in schools. Her backbenchers are making their views clear, so can she confirm whether she should be whipping them next week to vote against our amendment to ban phones in schools? Mr Speaker, we do look forward to their 17th U-turn in as many months, 18 if a round counts. But if the U-turn isn't coming, why is she still continuing to stand in the way of parents, heads and her own backbenchers who simply want classrooms free from disruption?
I'll welcome to his place, but I'm afraid he didn't listen to the last answer I just gave on this exact topic, which is that we are in the consultation we announced today consulting on whether a statutory ban is needed. But secondly, it is my firm belief that we have addressed the root cause of the problem, which is that the policies are not sufficiently clear and that they are not being well enough enforced. And that's what we're doing through asking Ofsted to inspect these policies and also supporting them through our attendance and behaviour hubs.
Rosie Duffy.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Question 5, please.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Department has worked closely with NHS England to monitor, support and challenge Kent in making necessary SEND improvements following its area SEND inspections in 2019 and 2022. This has included regular review meetings, attendance at their SEND Partnership Board and commissioning the support of an expert SEND advisor.
Rosie Duffield.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I recently hosted a constituency SEND round table with education leaders and officials from the department. Teachers stressed yet again that years of underfunding and diminished support services have left schools on their knees, often unable to meet the needs of the most vulnerable children. Unfortunately, the government's funding announcement in their white paper is just a drop in the ocean compared to what's needed to radically improve SEND services in East Kent. So can the Minister tell me what other steps she'll take to deliver urgently needed improvements in SEND provision in my constituency, as the funding only looks likely to equate to a few thousand extra pounds per school?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, my honourable friend will know that we have recently announced support to local authorities like Kent for 90% of their deficits. We're building 3 new special schools in Kent. We are putting in place £3.7 billion in capital investment, and the allocation for Kent will be coming on board shortly. And we've announced £4 billion of extra investment to wrap around schools, from speech and language therapists to money directly into school budgets.
Josh Dewberry.
Number 7, please, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
With permission, Mr Speaker, I'll answer questions 7, 18 and 22 together. Our new SEND system will deliver a fully inclusive mainstream education supported by £4 billion of investment. This Labour government is tackling one of the thorniest problems that the previous government left behind, with compassion, investment and reform. Children with special educational needs will access targeted and specialist support through clear and national framework with individual support plans and stronger education, health and care plans for children with complex needs. We will work with education and health staff to prioritise early intervention and cross-service collaboration to ensure better outcomes for children nationwide.
Josh Newbury.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having spoken with teachers and SENCOs across Cannock Chase, I know many schools like Longford Primary in Cannock and St Joseph's Primary in Rugeley already have SEND hubs, but with no additional funding, they can't offer the holistic teacher-led support they would like to. So can the Secretary of State confirm that local authorities will be given funding to commission specialist bases to finally give many children with SEND needs the support that will allow them to thrive in their local school?
Secretary of State.
Yes, I'm happy to give my honourable friend that commitment. We will make sure that every secondary school and a similar number of primary schools have that kind of support, and we will work with local authorities to set up specialist bases as part of our £3.7 billion high-need capital investment. We'll create 60,000 new specialist places nationwide to make sure that more children get the specialist support that they deserve. And I would encourage parents and staff in his constituency and across Cannock Chase to share their views during this consultation period.
Ben Coleman.
Mr. Speaker, this plan is to be welcomed. It rightly recognises that families of children with SEND are absolutely exhausted from having to fight and battle for the support they need, and I strongly welcome the commitment, therefore, to end that and to give over 1 million children for the first time legally enforceable rights through the individual support plans. But without clear enforcement, there are concerns which have been expressed to me that ISPs risk repeating the same problem. So can the Minister tell me what happens if a school doesn't follow a child's plan? Will parents have a legal right to enforce what an ISP says? In short, how will the government ensure these are genuine entitlements and not just more promises which families have to battle to see honoured?
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. I know he brings real expertise on this area, and I completely understand the point that he makes and that parents have made, given the lack of confidence that they have in the system after years of failure. But we are determined, Mr Speaker, to put this right and to turn it around to make sure that there is more flexible, earlier support available for children. And settings will have a duty to create individual support plans and deliver high-quality provision drawing on national standards. If schools aren't following the plan, it will be clear and obvious. Parents should seek to resolve that directly with the school. Where that doesn't work, we are strengthening the school complaints process with independent SEND expertise on the panel. But again, Mr Speaker, I'd encourage parents and staff across his community to share their views to make sure we get this right.
Joe Platt.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So families in Lee and Atherton are exhausted from constantly fighting for the SEN support their children need. So I welcome the White Paper's proposals, including individual support plans and more inclusion bases in schools, because inclusive education benefits everyone. But these reforms must come with real oversight and resources. Can the Minister reassure families that the battles for SEND support will end, and can she explain how local authorities and schools will be properly supported and held accountable?
Yes, I agree with my honourable friend, and this is about how we can deliver more support earlier to a much bigger number of children than is the case at the moment. So EHCP-like support without the fight to get that EHCP. But I know that there is already brilliant practice out there that shows the best of what can be achieved when schools work together with parents, and we saw that last year when I visited Gould All Saints Catholic Primary and her community, a real beacon of what can be achieved. We want to see more of that, and the extra investment will make that possible in more schools and in more greater parts of the country.
Claire Young.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Government has made some welcome commitments on education, but schools are then left to fulfil them. And we've seen with free school meals, breakfast clubs, teacher pay awards, each time the funding falls short and head teachers are left to make up the difference from budgets that are already on their knees. So now with the Experts at Hand service, can the Secretary of State guarantee that not a single school will have to raid its core budget to deliver this support?
Mr Speaker, this is significant extra investment, £4 billion above and beyond what schools have already been told that will be coming their way. And in so many of the areas that she has just set out there, whether that's through breakfast clubs or expanding free school meals, we are putting significant extra investment into making sure that all children can achieve and thrive. We know that so many of the barriers that children face to thriving in education go well beyond the school gate, and that's what we as a government are tackling.
Monica Harding.
Thank you,
Mr Speaker, children with SEND do not conform to neat packages and definitions, and those with complex needs need fluctuating levels of support. And there is real fear amongst my constituents in East and Walton that the government's proposals will seek to downgrade the level of support available to those with high needs and may not be flexible enough to respond to changes in children's needs. So can the Secretary of State define complexity and reassure those parents that EHCPs will remain open to any child whose needs are not met by ISPs?
Yes, Mr Speaker, and I'd encourage the Honourable Lady to share with her constituents not just the SEND consultation that we've set out, but also the draft profiles that we've established for specialist provision packages, which will be developed by an independent national panel with health and education expertise as a part of that. I would encourage her constituents to look at that, to share their views in order that we deliver a better system of support, including children with the most complex needs too, who are being badly let down by a system that just isn't working.
Vicky Slade.
Mr Speaker, unlike maintained schools, independent special educational needs settings are not required to respond to consultation requests from local authorities, leading to long delays, children out of schools for extended period and conflict when parents believe their child is not getting the setting that they really need. So what assurance can the Secretary of State give to parents in Mid Dorset, Northport and elsewhere that any school receiving public money is required to work with local authorities?
Mr Speaker, we will be setting much clearer expectations overall in terms of what we want to see from local authorities, not least given the huge investment around the deficits that is going in through the grant funding that they will receive. And with that money has to come better outcomes for children. And that is also true within the independent specialist sector. There is much fantastic provision that does cater very well for children with complex needs. But I'm afraid we cannot continue along this path of money that is meant for education being sucked out of education in order to fuel the profits of private equity.
David Chabot. Oh, sorry, I've got one more to do. No. So we're all right, David Chabot.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Number 8, please.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, with permission, I will answer question 8 and 21 together. We will look at ways to make the student loan system fairer, as the Prime Minister said last week. As a government, we have already acted to reintroduce maintenance grants. We have raised the repayment threshold to above average graduate salaries, and we are acting across the board on the cost of living, bringing down inflation and tackling transport, energy and rental costs.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Many graduates feel like they are drowning in debt and that they were sold a promise that hasn't come true, which is that a university education would help them to pay off their debts quickly, and yet their debts are continuing to mount. Will the government consider changing the repayment, scrapping the planned freeze of the repayment threshold?
Minister.
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question. We had a Westminster Hall debate about this last week, and good to see the debate continuing. We will look at ways to make the system fairer. There are a range of options. The threshold freeze raises £5.9 billion next year, and it's incumbent on any party serious about fiscal prudence to set out how they pay for changes.
Ahmed Jassem.
Mr Speaker, student allowance problems long predate Plan 2. So I welcome the government's commitment to make the system fairer after previous governments ruined the university funding model. It is wrong that generational inequality is baked into a system that leaves young people into debts that they only can service through interest payments. So does the Minister agree that the tinkering is not enough and that fundamental reform is now urgently needed?
Minister. Mr Speaker, I recognise my honourable friend's description of recent history and how we've ended up where we are today. We will look at ways of making the system fairer. As I say, there are a range of options for how to do that. We need to do that carefully.
Graham Stewart.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Sammy from Caingham in my constituency graduated in 2016 after borrowing £40,000. She was one of the first in her family ever to go to university. She's now been working in the medical field for more than 4 years, and yet that £40,000 has now grown to £46,000. So I'm glad to hear the Minister's answers to his colleague, not least in the last question. But Sammy and others want to hear that there's going to be concrete action to stop the outrageous level of interest, which is higher than you would expect on a personal loan or a mortgage. Will the Minister do something about it?
Minister. Well, Mr Speaker, I hope the honourable member started by apologising to Sammy in his correspondence, because the last government had 10 years, 10 separate freezes of the threshold, 10. I can list them all out, but they started in the year that the policy itself was designed and introduced, in the same year as the commitment was made to increase the threshold in line with inflation, which they did not do.
Chair of the Select Committee, Helen Hayes.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Concerns raised in recent weeks about Plan 2 student loans, including unilateral and unexpected change in the repayment terms and repayments based on the Consumer Price Index, are about the promise of higher education. Whether working hard for an undergraduate degree really does result in a good quality of life when graduates face 30 years of student loan repayments on these terms. In light of these escalating concerns, can the Minister tell the House what discussions he has had with the Treasury on this issue and when we can expect to see the work that he promises to make Plan 2 loans fairer for students?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I know the Chair of the Education Select Committee is looking at these issues, and the Government will be very interested in the work that is undertaken by the Select Committee. We will set out the details soon, but of course she is right to highlight how transformational higher education can be, and I wouldn't want any young person outside of this place listening to this debate and taking away from it that they shouldn't take every step forward to go and follow their talents. Of course, we had just a few days ago the Brits with some brilliant British talent, many of whom went to creative arts courses at university.
Jack Rankin, Shadow Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On Newsnight on the 23rd of February, the Minister of State for School Standards acknowledged the student loan system isn't perfect, but justified no change by saying the government faces huge pressure and must make tough choices. Given spending choices made since his government came to power, isn't the truth that the political choices his colleagues are talking about are balancing their benefits street budget on the back of aspirational graduates?
Minister.
I would like to think there's cross-party agreement, Mr Speaker, that tackling educational inequality in this country is one of the most important things that we could do, and it is a shame on our country that we are one of the most unequal in terms of how well a child can do at school based on how much money their parents have in their pockets. That is what the Labour Party is all about. That's what we're doing as a government, and it is not in any way at odds with finding ways to make our student loan system fairer and fixing it after 10 years of freezes on thresholds which hit working graduates that the party opposite are responsible for.
Gareth Bacon.
Number 9, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Our Best Start in Life strategy is expanding access to childcare, saving working families £7,500 a year and getting record proportions of children ready for school. We work closely with local authorities to ensure the quality and sufficiency of childcare, including across Greater London.
Thank the Minister for her response. Late last year, with relatively little notice, the trustees of a preschool in my constituency called Crofton Early Learners decided to close the preschool, meaning that 40 sets of parents had a very anxious Christmas, wondering and worrying what childcare they would have in the new year. But the very good news is that thanks to the dedicated work of former staff, volunteers and parents, a new setting called Phoenix Early Learners was opened within just 6 weeks. So could the Minister join me in thanking both Ofsted and the Charity Commission for fast-tracking the paperwork necessary and paying tribute to the staff, carers, the volunteers and the new trustees of the new Early Learning Centre for all of the great work that they've done for their local community?
Minister.
Absolutely, Mr Speaker. I congratulate him, all of the parents, volunteers, Ofsted and Early Years professionals who have opened what sounds like a fantastic new provision for their community at impressive speed. I am pleased, Mr Speaker, that the Government's investment in childcare, which will total £9.5 billion this year, is helping to ensure more children have a fantastic early education and are supported to get ready for school.
Alistair Blunder.
Question number 10, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I have talked to so many families who've had to watch their children fall further behind without the speech and language support they need. Alongside measures to address local authority deficits, we're providing £1.8 billion over the next 3 years for local areas to develop a new experts at hand offer, providing mainstream education settings with access to support from services including speech and language therapy.
Alistair Blundell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As the Minister knows, the SEND system isn't working for children, families or local councils and hasn't been for some time. Despite the record of the party opposite, we cannot allow children in need of speech and language therapy to lose out. Can the Minister assure me that when it comes to speech and language therapy, new experts at hand will be utilised effectively so that each local authority will be able to provide all children with the support they need?
Alistair.
Mr Speaker, I'm happy to be able to reassure my honourable friend and like to thank her for her advocacy on this really important issue. We're rebuilding the support across community. Best Start hubs in every community will be supported by £200 million to support for children with special educational needs and disabilities. And we're investing £40 million to train up new specialist speech and language staff and educational psychologists to make sure that this support is available in every community.
Tim Perran.
Mr Speaker, in terms of its provision of speech and language therapy for special educational needs students, Westmoreland and Furness Council in our area was not one of those councils in financial difficulties until last month, when the government decided, for the crime of it being the most rural district in the country, to cut 31% of its budget over 3 years. What help and what confidence can the Minister give to children in my community, particularly their parents also, parents of special educational needs children, they're not going to be hit massively by these cuts? What can she do to put them right?
Mr Speaker, we are providing dedicated support for speech and language therapists, educational psychologists, occupational therapists, so they are available for every primary and every secondary school. We expect for an average secondary school in his constituency will amount to about 160 days of support a year.
Annalise Bridget.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Question number 11, please.
Sarah Stay.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As my honourable friend knows well, ensuring that all of our children in every corner of the country learn to read quickly and to enjoy reading is one of this Labour government's key priorities. We are building strong foundations for every child in this National Year of Reading. Our Best Start in Life strategy will expand support to improve phonics teaching, and through our Rise English hubs we are doubling the reach of our Reading Ambition for All programme so that every child achieves and thrives.
Annalise Midgley.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As Secretary of State said, 2026 is the National Year of Reading. And this week I'm reading Ghost Town by Jeff Young. Reading changed my life, and in fact I read a book a week. But in Knowsley, 1 in 4 children are failing their Key Stage 1 phonics standards. So can the Minister tell me how the Year of Reading will help kids in my constituency improve their reading and discover the same love I have for a good book?
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for her enthusiasm, although she's put us all to shame with that acknowledgement about her amazing reading habits. The National Year of Reading, Mr Speaker, is all about encouraging children to discover the magic of a good book, which can ignite a lifelong love of reading. There will be exciting online and in-person events, lots of resources happening in schools, in libraries and communities up and down the country, including in Knowsley, and I'm sure she'll be encouraging her constituents, her schools, local children to get involved.
Caroline Bowman.
Mr Speaker, reading daily to young children is shown to have a direct correlation with better outcomes, qualifications and social mobility later in life. And just one book a day means a child will hear approximately 300,000 more words by age 5 than those who aren't regularly read to. However, many parents just aren't aware of this. So as part of the National Year of Reading, has the government given any consideration to repeating the success of Clunk Click Every Trip and running a national advertising campaign to promote directly to new parents the need and the value of reading to their children every day?
Sarah Stay.
The Honourable Lady is absolutely right about the evidence of reading together with children, how even a short period of time at the end of the day can really set children up to succeed. And through the National Year of Reading, we'll be supporting exactly those kinds of initiatives, but also through our Best Start family hubs, making sure that parents are getting high-quality advice around the best ways to support their children's learning at home.
Jack Rankin, Shadow Minister.
Mr Speaker, when I visit primary and first schools, teachers tell me more and more children are starting school and when given a book are swiping it rather than knowing how to turn a page. If the Secretary of State is serious about raising phonics standards at Key Stage 1, will she act now to empower parents and get screens out of classrooms and back a ban on social media for the under-16s to create the right habits early? Or will she continue to drag her feet given it's already taken 6 weeks to even launch a consultation we all know the answer to?
Mr Speaker, we have launched that consultation, and I am clear that phones have no place within our schools, and schools should enforce that policy and make sure that it's being followed. But he also asked what is a serious and reasonable question about some of the challenges that we see when children arrive at primary school. That's why through our Best Start Family Hubs and through the National Year of Reading, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make sure that more parents and more children are supported, and all of us as parents have to lead by example in this regard as well.
No law.
Well, Mr Speaker.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Every primary school in England will have a free breakfast club by the end of this Parliament, giving children a healthy breakfast, a great soft start to the day and improving attainment and attendance. Another 2,000 schools will open our free breakfast clubs this year, including Pondu Primary School in my honourable friend's constituency.
Law.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm delighted that Pondu Primary in my constituency has been a trailblazer for not just the free breakfast clubs scheme of our government, but also investment in school nurseries, which has been a resounding success. But what assessment has the Minister made of the positive impacts of our free breakfast clubs programmes on children and their families?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It was a pleasure to spend time with my honourable friend in his constituency recently, where he and I both enjoyed a range of activities with the brilliant Pinky, including our enthusiastic attempts at axe chopping. I know my honourable friend has worked really hard to support and encourage schools in his constituency to participate in our school-based nurseries and breakfast clubs programme, and I thank him for it. In the South West, we have opened 30 school-based nurseries and nearly 100 breakfast clubs, supporting thousands of children in St Austell and beyond to get the very best start in life.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The rollout of free breakfast clubs and the government's wider child poverty strategy is supposed to be data-driven, yet the department does not even hold information on which councils in England have implemented auto-enrolment for free school meals. If the government doesn't hold this basic data, which would show that Devon has used it and gained £1.5 million in pupil premium, but Plymouth has delayed until 26-27, how can the government be trusted to roll out further taxpayer-funded support, like free breakfast clubs, and prove it impacts child poverty?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. All of our programmes are evidence-based, and when it comes to breakfast clubs, we know the data shows us that they're going to drive up attainment and improve attendance for our school children.
James Cleary on topicals.
Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I want to thank everyone for their support on the publication of Every Child Achieving and Thriving White Paper and the SEND Reform consultation. From the reception it's received, it is clear that we are on the right track to reform the system, and I look forward to working with members across this House, education and health staff, parents and children, to build a future where every child can achieve and thrive. Last week, Mr Speaker, I was shocked by posts on TikTok encouraging violence by school children. TikTok must take urgent steps to address this and support firm action being taken by schools, local authorities and police to respond. And from September, children will learn about staying safe from violence and the new curriculum.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Plumpton College in my constituency is celebrating 100 years of land-based education, from 17 students in 1926 to a nationally recognised centre for agriculture, viticulture and environmental studies, with over 1,200 full and part-time students today. Farming and land-based producers are vital to our food security, rural economy and environmental stewardship. So will the Minister join me in congratulating Plumpton College on its centenary and set out how the Government will ensure specialist agricultural colleges have the funding certainty and support they need for the next century?
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman and join with him in celebrating the amazing success of his local college. We do want to make sure that we provide the kinds of support that he is talking about. We are investing more in further education and post-16 education, but if there are further areas he would like to raise, I'll make sure that that is picked up by the Minister.
Mary Kelly-Ford.
Mr Speaker, and I truly welcome the reform to the SEND provision. But with some schools already making redundancies because of funding, I echo the concerns of teaching unions that the recently announced inclusion grant is too small, equating to 1 part-time TA for the average primary school and 2 TAs for the average secondary. Can the Minister reassure me and educators in Durham that there will be adequate funding available to make our schools more inclusive for children with SEND, whilst allowing schools to protect the support those children with SEND in mainstream classrooms already have?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we are committed to investing in schools. Our plans include an extra £1.6 billion going directly into schools and £1.8 billion into the wider Experts at Hand service. And this is on top of increasing funding to the school's core budget. In this Parliament, we will continue to grow our investment in both SEND and schools to ensure every child gets the best start in life.
Laura Trott, Shadow Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Under what circumstances does the Secretary of State think it's appropriate for a 5-year-old to socially transition?
State.
Mr Speaker, I genuinely expected better from the Right Honourable Lady. I would encourage her to go away and look at the guidance that we have published that will be statutory in nature and makes very, very clear the involvement of parents. My view, which is also the view of Dr Hilary Cass, is that we should let children be children.
Laura Trott.
The answer should have been never. That's what our guidance said, and that's what their guidance should have said. In our universities, gender-critical feminists have been kicked off campus, while today the Ayatollah is being celebrated as a martyr at UCL. This is completely unacceptable. What is she doing to crack down on this two-tier system, or is she going to sit on her hands whilst an enemy of Britain is celebrated?
Mr Speaker, no, absolutely not. And whilst I am clear that universities should be a place of open discussion and dialogue where views should be challenged and questioned, and that is an important principle that this party has long supported. There, of course, can be no place for hate speech, no place for intimidation on campus, and anyone involved in that kind of activity should face consequences. But that is entirely different to the wider question that she first started on, which is about the well-being of children. We all have a responsibility to approach this sensibly and to do what is right by children, and she obviously hasn't read the guidance properly.
Dave Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The ministerial team will be aware that schools in the Arthur Terry Learning Partnership across my constituency and 6 others in the West Midlands saw 9 days of strike action in January and February. The Trust was consulting on staff cuts because it had a multi-million-pound hole in its budget, a hole that senior leaders put down to a mistake in the finances. I'm glad there's now new leadership in place at Arthur Terry Learning Partnership. What steps can our government take to ensure that trusts are held to account much more strongly than they currently are?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I really appreciate the way that my honourable friend has been working closely with me on this issue. The Department sets clear financial management expectations for trusts through funding agreements in the Academy Trust Handbook, and we are bringing in inspections of multi-academy trusts to ensure good governance and financial management.
Democrat spokesperson Mohindra Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Secretary of State has quite rightly said that someone's background should be no barrier to success. So if she doesn't propose to increase the pupil premium budget, would she confirm how many children will lose out when she seeks to rebalance it? And will she guarantee that the money will always follow the individual child, not where they live?
Mr Speaker, as the Honourable Lady will know, we've set out that we intend to consult on getting the best outcomes for children through use of the money that we are targeting on disadvantage. Free school meals is a rather blunt way of doing that, and we're keen to explore ways in which we can make sure that all children from less well-off backgrounds, including pupil premium children, get the very, very best from their education. But it is a consultation, and I'd be more than willing to discuss it further with her.
I thank the Schools Minister for meeting with my constituent Christine Lote to discuss her campaign to see the school's admissions code broadened, following her own stage 4 cancer not being factored into her daughter's primary school allocation, seeing her placed further from home. Christine can't walk her daughter to school anymore, and her daughter can't access the specialist bereavement support at their more local schools. Could the Minister please confirm if this change can be considered as part of the admissions code consultation, and if information about this issue can be shared with other local authorities to inform their policies and help prevent this for other families?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I'd like to pay tribute to my honourable friend's constituent, whose courage and commitment and care for others in the most impossible circumstances is truly inspiring. In the school's white paper, we're committed to consulting on changes to the school admissions code to promote fairness for all families, and as part of this work, we'll be looking at how we can ensure that cases like this are better supported for admissions policy in the future, and that schools and admissions authorities in the meantime are making use of the social and medical criteria.
Ashley Fox.
Mr Speaker, in 2023, Parliament legislated to protect freedom of speech
on our university campuses. But we are still waiting for the government to bring Section 8 of that Act into force. So will the Minister set out a clear timetable for commencing the complaint scheme so that our academics are protected from censorship and silencing?
Yes, Mr Speaker, we intend to do so shortly, but to be absolutely clear, universities should be places of open discussion, challenge of views, where academics should be able to operate freely and make sure that everyone is exposed to views that sometimes they may find challenging and they may disagree with. We have, of course, commenced many of the provisions within the Act that are upholding and safeguarding both free speech but also academic freedom in our universities.
Oliver Round.
Mr Speaker, the brilliant Burnley College has bid to become one of our 4 new technical advanced manufacturing technical excellence colleges for the UK. The bid is the only from Lancashire. It's backed by the North West Aerospace and Automotive Alliance and our big local world-class manufacturing employers, neighbouring colleges across the North West and Yorkshire, and of course it's backed by me. Will she do her best to look fondly on their bid, and will she back Burnley's technical excellence?
Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for his advocacy for a technical excellence college in his constituency. We've launched the applications, Mr Speaker, for 19 of these. It gets to the core of what this Labour government is about, which is creating opportunities in every corner of this country.
Sir Desmond Sway.
Instead of her cap on the number of branded items of school uniform, will she substitute a monetary cap which would afford much greater flexibility to schools?
Mr Speaker, we were elected on a manifesto to deliver a limit on the number of branded items to cut the cost of school uniform to children. Unfortunately, some of what he has proposed could have unintended consequences that wouldn't tackle the problem that we're facing, which is that children should be smart when they go to school, but it shouldn't cost their parents the earth.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Literacy levels among Southampton's children remain a challenge, and I want to commend the work of so many teachers in attempting to close that gap. Can the Minister say how schools in my constituency can best engage with the Year of Reading, and will she join me in welcoming plans for a Southampton Literary Festival to inspire a lifelong love of reading in every child in Southampton?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I absolutely welcome and celebrate the launch of the Southampton Literary Festival by Bittern Park School, and I'd like to thank him for all his advocacy in his constituency. The National Year of Reading, Mr Speaker, is packed full of exciting events for all to participate in, and I'd encourage honourable members to do so.
Lisa Smart.
Forest Lane Junior School recently visited the parliamentary education establishment, and they invited me along kindly. They were fizzing with enthusiasm and excitement for their learning. We know that attitudes to money are bedded in at a really, really young age, and so it's really welcome that financial education is included in the curriculum and assessment review. We also know 80% of teachers are reporting heavy workloads. So what additional funding and training is coming on to make sure children get what they need?
Mr Speaker, children and young people, often when I speak to them, raise financial education as the big change they want to see in the curriculum. We're really pleased that as part of a curriculum and assessment review, we are making that change and including financial education at both primary and secondary school. We are developing a new digital national curriculum to make it easier for teachers to implement, and we're increasing funding for schools to implement these wider changes.
Douglas McAllister.
Scottish colleges are struggling to cope with huge cuts to staff and funding, such as West College Scotland in my West Dunbartonshire constituency. The SNP has cut funding by 20% in 5 years. What can the Minister do, working with other government colleagues such as Defence, to ensure Scottish colleges become the engines of growth and opportunity again, particularly for the young people of West Dunbartonshire?
Mr Speaker, the SNP's track record on education is so poor they needed to pull out of the PISA international league tables because they were plummeting so low. There's a chance to fix that in the elections later on this year. Skills policy is obviously devolved, Mr Speaker, but there are fantastic opportunities as part of our defence boost that we're seeing as a government to bring colleges in Scotland along with that journey.
Andrew Rosendale.
Mr Speaker, does the Secretary of State agree with me that the promotion of British heritage in schools is something we should prioritise, and therefore will she bring in a policy to ensure that every school flies the Union Jack outside their premises and that a different pupil gets the chance to raise the national flag every morning?
Mr. Speaker, we already teach British values and we are proud to teach our British heritage around the past and to set us up for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that this week is UK Colleges Week, can I take this opportunity to highlight Stafford College, widely accepted as the best college in the country, which already has 1,150 students on manufacturing courses and works with 250 local employers in the sector. Does the Minister agree with me that Newcastle and Stafford Colleges Group were made an advanced manufacturing technical excellence college? It could build on its excellent relationship with manufacturers locally.
Mr. Speaker, I would gladly congratulate Newcastle and Stafford Colleges Group for their recent Ofsted rating, which is fantastic, and also the support my honourable friend has given to their application to become a Wave 2 Tech. The application's closed on the 16th of February, and we're expecting to make and announce a decision next month.
Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Alderley Edge School for Girls in my constituency has just announced its closure, blaming increased costs such as national insurance and, most significantly, VAT on school fees. Given the Secretary of State is responsible for its closure, what will she do to help minimise the disruption to pupils who are now being forced to change schools against their wishes and to find places in local schools that are no longer exist or are full in Cheshire East?
Minister, go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry to hear about the closure of the school in her constituency, but do state that closures of private schools have been in line with historical trends. I would also say to her that all pupils are entitled to a state school place and she should contact the local authority to discuss it further.
Phil Maskell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the Education Secretary's commitment to inclusion, but many children in York are not in school because of discipline processes run in multi-academy trusts and the culture which ensues. Can she say what she's going to do to ensure that leaders in multi-academy trusts are held to account for this?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we think it's absolutely essential that all children have access to an inclusive education. It's why Ofsted is now inspecting all schools on inclusion. And as part of a school's white paper and the SEND consultation, we've set out new guidance on reasonable adjustments to support schools to do that. And we'll be inspecting multi-academy trusts on their decision-making.
Suella Bratton.
Disgracefully, the pro-Ayatollah Student Society plans to host a commemorative event in name of the fallen on the campus of University College London, i.e. in support of those who supported the brutal IRGC regime. Does the Secretary of State agree that this is utterly wrong, that taxpayer-funded university resource is being used to propagate the murderous ideology of the Tehran regime, which has attacked UK bases and with whom we are effectively at war?
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, we expect to see the strongest possible action where hate speech or illegal activity takes place, whether that's on campus or anywhere else, and I would expect any suggestions of that kind of activity to be fully investigated by those responsible for enforcing the law.
Final question, Jonathan Brash.
Speaker, as this is Colleges Week, will the Secretary of State join with me in paying tribute to the incredible college staff in Hartlepool and across the country for the work they do? And does she agree with me we have to end the misguided prejudice that the academic route is always best and champion vocational qualifications to give us the workforce we need to rebuild our country?
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I do pay tribute to the amazing people that work across our colleges and in further education, including Hartlepool College, and I look forward to being in Hartlepool very soon with my honourable friend to see that at first hand.
Let the front benches change over.